right, you guys, welcome back to the vlog. Today is officially the start of the second week of the World Series for us, and today we're playing the $1,000 Ladies Event. So let's get right into it. Just on a personal note, I'm really excited to play this event because when I was first getting into poker, I only played online. Jesse taught me online. And the first time that I actually felt really comfortable to show up and try playing in a casino with chips, with dealers, with other people that were looking at you when you were making decisions, was in a tiny ladies event at the MGM 10 years ago. And I just want to encourage you, if you're in the same boat, trying to work up the courage to go down to a casino where it's full of people who have done this before, been there before, just know all of us who have made it this far in poker, who look like we have experience, have all been in your shoes at one point. We all had to make that first trip to the casino. So my advice to you, just find a super small stake, cash game, small daily tournament at your local casino and just give it a go. Give it a try. You will never have your first experience again, so just go enjoy it, soak up the moment, and then the next time you'll just keep getting better at it, more familiar and more comfortable. In the first hand we get involved in, we open Queen Jack offsuit from the hijack to 300. Just the big blind comes along and we see a flop of Jack 9-3, 2 clubs. And the big blind does something different. She leads pot here for 800. Now, I have seen this player already lead pot with bottom pair in a hand not too long ago. We're still in level 1. So I'm not too worried about this pot size lead unless she is on that level where she just showed down bottom pair when she did this and now she's trying to mix it up by doing it with a really good hand. But we have top pair and it's a nice medium strength hand. We're going to call. The turn comes a deuce of clubs, so that brings in the front door flush. And now she pretty quickly checks. So I don't think she has a flush. I don't think she would lead the flop with a flush draw anyway, because she's basically just charging herself to draw to her flush. So I pretty firmly think we have the best hand still. So I want to get value from a pair that has a club, anything like a 9, a 3. I bet 1,600, she makes the call. The river is another deuce, an offsuit deuce. She checks, and at this point, I think I might be value owning myself a little bit if I bet again, but I could probably squeak out like a small bet. Instead, I check back and she turns over ace-5 of clubs for the nut flush. So we were totally off with what she was doing this with. Well done for her. She takes down the pot. One orbit later, we pick up pocket 6s in the hijack and we raise to 300. The cutoff calls and the big blind calls. So we're off to see a flop 3 ways. Comes down 9-9-4 rainbow. The big blind checks, and we bet 600 into a pot of about 1,100. Normally I would size down, but I don't think that these two particular opponents are gonna notice that I didn't bet like the smaller standard sizing on this dry texture. And I wanna protect my pocket 6s. The cutoff does not like 600. She makes it 2,300. Big blind folds, it's back to us. And I don't actually think she has much, to be honest, because she doesn't have a lot of 4s in her range that call pre-flop from this position, cutoff versus hijack. Doesn't have a lot of 9s, and even if she did have a 9, a lot of people in these tournaments, they're not going to be snap raising a 9 on this super dry flop. They might opt to slow play it, and they definitely don't do it with as much, gusto as she did. So I really think that she's just trying to get me to fold on a flop that she probably perceives me to be c-betting 100%. I make the call for 1,700 more, and we're off to see a turn. Turn is a 4 of diamonds. I check it over to her, and she snap checks back. So now I really don't think she has a boat unless she's getting really trappy. A lot of things would have to kind of line up in a weird way for her to have a boat here. She could have like ace-4 suited. That's about it. The river brings a king of hearts. I check with the plan to call any sort of sizing that continues to match up with my inkling that she doesn't have much in this spot. She bets 3,300 into 57. That's not going to be enough for me to fold. I'm sticking to my read here. I think especially on the king, if she had any hand that beat me like 7s or 8s, for example, that raised the flop, she would check that back on this river. So we are going to pay to see it. We toss in the 3,300 and are very, very happy to see that she has queen 10 of hearts for the just pure air ball. She was just bluffing, and we caught her. So that was really fun. So I had been fairly active the rest of that level when I flop bottom set in check raise, get no calls. I open aces, c-bet 3 ways, take it down, and I had shown both of those hands. So even though I've been active at the table, my image is still pretty solid. In this hand, we're in the cutoff and we open Jack 7 of hearts at 100, 200 big blind to 600. Just the big blind calls, and we're off to see a flop of 9, 5, 3 rainbow. Big blind checks. There is 1 heart on board. We have a couple of back doors, but it's looking pretty meager. In any case, we're just gonna be betting such a dry flop almost always versus the big blind. So we bet 400. She quickly calls. The turn is an offsuit 10. So we pick up a gutter, and like I said, we're gonna be barreling a lot of backdoors. So this is one of them. When she checks it to us, we wanna choose a very large sizing to put pressure on, ace high floats, 5s, 3s, maybe a weak 9, any type of pair under a 9, stuff like that. Even if some people float over cards like king highs on this texture when you just bet so small. So we bet 1,700 into 23. And she thinks about it and reluctantly folds. Nice to get that one through. So this is a fun one. We open 9-6 of diamonds in the hijack to 700 at 300 big blind. Yeah, we are getting a little frisky at this table. We're widening up our opening ranges, just exploiting the fact that nobody is really playing back at us, so we want to just get involved in as many hands as possible. Just the big blind calls for 400 more, and we're off to see a flop. It comes 9, 5, 5 rainbow. So we flop top pair. Not a great top pair, but it is top pair. She checks over to me. I bet 1,100, which is on the bigger side. Probably if I could take this hand back, I would go a little bit smaller on this flop. I don't want to go so big when I have it and so small when I don't have it, because even if they're really not paying attention, it's not that hard to pick up on that. Anyway, I bet 1,100. She makes the call. The turn is another 9, so we just turn a boat. She checks. We bet 2K this time, which is about half pot. If she had ace high that was calling the flop or a pair, she might be reluctant to fold this turn. And if she has a 5, for instance, we don't want to miss out on any value. So we bet 2K, and she snap raises, and I mean snap raises to 6,000. Just in case she has some shenanigans going on here, we make the call for 4,000. No need to raise, there's not that much behind. The river brings an offsuit 3. She leads for 7K of a stack of about 9,400, I believe. Interesting sizing, but we are gonna go for it all. Obviously, we have top boat. We are expecting actually to chop a lot when she takes this line. But anyway, we stick the rest in, and she thinks for a second and calls and has ace 5 offsuit. So unfortunate for her, we turn the better full house and knock her out of the tournament. So this one gets a little funky because the opponent in this hand, I'm very, very confident that she was just getting sick of me. I was in a lot of pots, I was winning a lot of pots, and she has no idea that I was just running super hot. Yeah, maybe I was throwing in a couple of bluffs here and there, but I think she was totally over me. Anyway, this is the opponent who under the gun 2 raises to 800 at 400 big blind. We're in the small blind and make the call with ace 10 of hearts. The big blind comes along as well. So 3 ways, we see a flop of ace jack 4 with 2 diamonds and a club. We both check to under the gun 2 player. She bets 2,000 into 3,000. So pretty hefty sizing, especially 3 ways. But we're not going anywhere. We make the call and the big blind folds. The turn comes down an 8 of clubs. I check, she bets 2,500 this time. When the board is 2 flush draws like this, and she almost down bets, like she almost bets nearly the same as her flop size, I pretty confidently don't think she has like an amazing top pair. A lot of people get scared of the double flush draws. It's very wet texture. I think she would go much bigger with a better ace. So we call the turn, and the river brings a 7 of hearts, so offsuit 7. So we still have top pair with a 10 kicker. We check it over to her, and she fires again. She fires 5K into a pot of 12, I believe. I toss in my 5K chip. She just mucks her cards, and we flip over our hand when she looks a little embarrassed, and we take down this one as well.
Thank you.
Wasn't really happy about calling the river, but. So in this next interesting one, the under the gun 2-player limps, low jack limps, and we look down at pocket 10s in the hijack. We raise it up to 2K, just trying to ISO those players. It folds around to the button, and she 3-bets to 8,000. She 4X's our raise. The limpers get out of the way, and it's back onto us. She started the hand with about 27K. She put in almost a third of her stack here, and I really don't like all my options. I don't want to call for this big of her stack and then have to, fold on a flop. I don't want to go all in because I honestly think that when she makes it this big, her 3-bet this big and then call off is way better than 10s, and I end up just making the fold eventually. So this hand takes place only 1 orbit later from that 10s hand. We open the hijack with ace queen offsuit to 1K. The same button, she 3-bets me to 3,500. And when it folds back to me, now I'm kind of thinking, man, maybe I gave her too tight of a range this last orbit. She's 3-betting me again. Larger sizing, not quite 4X, she made it 3.5. On a stack size, we both started with a little over 60 blinds. She has about 25K to start the hand. I think that we're gonna call this ace queen offsuit. Perfectly good candidate to 4-bet. I'm kind of right in the middle. I make the call. Flop is queen 9-5, 2 diamonds. So we flop top pair, top kicker, backdoor flush draw. We are loving this flop. We check it over to her, and she bets out 8,000 into a pot of 8,000. She bets pot. These reading into bet sizes a little bit, you see this a lot, especially in ladies events. People will bet pot on the flop and they get a lot of folds, so it's working for them. But then when they get called, they play the turn and river pretty straight forward, pretty face up. So I can't necessarily just be afraid that her pot size bet on the flop is always a strong hand, even though, my alarm bells are going off. I make the call for 8,000. The turn is another diamond. It's a lower diamond, and she jams all in for 13K once I check to her. With that diamond coming off on the turn, top pair, top kicker, I cannot be folding for this price, so we stick it in, and she flips over pocket aces. River comes out, the queen of clubs. We spike it on the river. We hit that queen of clubs for trips. We suck out real hard on the aces. Tap the table, say good game, and as she's walking away, she says, I had the same hand last orbit. So she was saying that she had aces when she 3-bet me with the 10s. So good game to her. It always sucks taking brutal beats like that. You live to fight another day. Good luck in the next one. So let's only talk about the 2 most interesting pots that happened after dinner. I didn't get them on camera because of our first world chip problem getting in the way of our cards, and it was just such an awkward angle that I decided to put the phone down, relax, order some wine with my neighbor who is from Halifax, Canada, and just, relax, have some wine, and enjoy the last couple levels of the night. In this one big one, the under the gun limps at 1,200 big blind. Under the gun 2 makes it 4,000. And we look down at pocket aces in the big blind. We are super pumped because Under the Gun 2 has been really active. So have I pre-flop. So this is just like a battle made in heaven. Anyway, she made it 4K. We look down at aces. We make it 12K in the big. The limper folds and Under the Gun 2 calls. The flop is queen 8-6 with 2 hearts and a club. We have both a heart and a club. We see bet 15K into about 27. She calls. And our heart is really bracing right now. We're poised to win a huge pot towards the end of the night after quite a few levels after dinner of nothing happening. The turn is a 7 of clubs. We jam her last 27K in, and she pretty quickly folds. We bag chips for day 2, and we're off to our second day 2 of the series. So there's about 170 people coming back to day 2, all fighting for that top prize of about $115,000 and a World Series Gold bracelet. A total of 97 people will cash for a min cash of about $1,600. We're sitting somewhere in the middle of the chip counts, feeling really good and ready to battle. So the first hand we play on day 2 is the very first hand that was dealt to us. We get Jack 8 of clubs under the gun 1 and make it 4,500. The player to my left, she makes it 9,000. And when it folds back to me, we're not folding for this price. I make the call, and on a flop of 9-7-3 rainbow with 1 club, I check it over to her and plan on calling a small C bet, which she does. She bets 8,500 into about 23K. I make the call with my over, gutter, and a backdoor flush draw. The turn is an offsuit deuce. I check, she checks back pretty quickly. So now my plan is to bluff a lot of rivers. I don't think she's going to be balanced enough to check back 10s through aces or a hand that can really call on a brick river. Unless she gets really sticky with ace high, I think I'm gonna get a lot of folds. So the river comes an offsuit 4, and I stick to my plan. I bet 30,000 into 40. So 3/4 size pot bet, really putting the pressure on those ace high holdings, and she folds. So we're off to a great start on day 2. The very next hand, we're dealt ace king offsuit. As we're raking in our chips, we get ace king offsuit. We are so pumped. I make it 4,500 under the gun, and middle position makes the call. Heads up to a flop, it comes 8-5 deuce rainbow. You can see about this flop. I like to do a lot of checking under the gun versus middle position because middle position's range to call under the gun with all of those people left behind them is pretty strong. This time, that's what I do. I check it over to her, and she bets 7,700. I make the call because I beat a lot of her range. So I'm gonna make the call very happily. The turn is a beautiful offsuit ace. So now we almost for sure have the best hand. I check it over to her. She pretty quickly checks back. River is an offsuit jack, and now it's time to go for value. So I bet 22K into 29,000, just hoping to get a call from pocket pairs under an ace or get looked up by some jack X that got there, maybe a worse ace that got a little tricky on the turn. I go big for value. Maybe could have gone a little bit smaller, but I just bet a river big and didn't show it down. So I thought maybe she would get a little curious. This time she folds, and I'm dragging in another pot. Glorious way to start day 2. We win some pots, we lose some pots, and then we get it all in with ace king versus pocket 9s and lose. It was about a 10 to 12 big blind pot. So now we're in that funny spot where you have about 15 blinds, and I just have a plan to be conservative, be a little nitty now, and wait for the bubble to burst. We are very close. Everyone is just holding their breath, trying to make it into the money. So everyone's excited. We're all in the money. This is my first 2021 World Series of Poker cash, so that is a really great feeling. Now, our plan of attack, sit back down, use our short stack to go all in, pick up a few chips, maybe double, and try to run deep in this thing. So I'm not really getting much traction with these all-ins, so it is a really nice sight when we look down at pocket jacks. We're under the gun 1. I have about 13 big blinds to start the hand. This is a very easy shove. That's what I do. I go all in. The button starts going into the tank, counts down her full stack. She has me covered, but eventually decides to rip it in as well. When it folds to the big blind, she snaps it off, but we get some really exciting news when both of them turn over ace king. So we just need to hold in this massive 3-way all in that will boost our stack back up to an average stack in the tournament and get us back to where we can play pots again without having to go all in.
Oh no. Oh. I mean, I thought I was like dust after that. Still dust.
So we're out of that one. That would have been a really good spot to more than triple up. Put us in a really good stack setup at our table and set us up for a really deep run. These are the heartbreaking moments in tournaments because you fight for, 14 hours of play, plus all the breaks, to get yourself into a spot like that. And then when you lose it, it's like, okay, gotta start over again. Next tournament. Happy to get the first cash of the World Series. under my belt. But again, it's just like basically a min cash, and you earn your living as a tournament player by getting those top 3 spots. So that's what we're fighting for. We're gonna get back in there tomorrow. Right now I need to go home, take a nap, reset, just kind of like mentally get back in the zone and carry all the confidence that I kind of took from my play in this tournament into the rest of the series. That's it for this vlog. Go look at the tables, you guys. Till next time. Bye.